My friends, good evening, good evening, good evening. You've caught me this evening in a very good mood. I hope that you are too, and you've had a fantastic week. I'm sorry that I missed last week, by the way. I was spending my evening, and well, all day in fact, vomiting, which you didn't need to know if you're, you haven't yet had your tea or whatever else. I do apologise, but that's why I missed last week. Anywho, moving swiftly on from Vomit Central to more positive news. Today, Durham County Council passed the lowest council tax, if not in the country, in the northeast of England for certain. And we did that by making savings, we did that by cutting the waste, we did that by scrapping net zero, we did that by scrapping diversity, equity and inclusion, all these DEI, HR nonsense and all the rest of it. And we're very proud and pleased to have done that. We're very proud and pleased to have delivered on what we promised we would deliver on the pledges that we made to the people that voted for overwhelmingly in May of last year. So, things are going very well and I'm delighted to be a part of it. It's the greatest honour of my lifetime. Thank you to absolutely everybody who supported me on that journey, making the mad decision to, leave television to get into local politics, because I tell you what, my accountant wasn't best pleased. Never mind. There's more to life than money, isn't there? No point being well off in a country that you don't recognise anymore, is there? Now, my friends, what a day it's been elsewhere, though, because Donald J. Trump has just released the most seismic statement of Keir Starmer's time in number 10 Downing Street. Now, you'll know as well as I do that up until now, Donald J. Trump has been completely magnanimous with Keir Starmer. It's been a relationship where we've been thinking here at home, why is the president not more attuned to the absolute failings and, dare I say, malevolence of Keir Starmer's time in number 10 on everything from the crackdown on free speech, banging up political opponents, the way in which actually there's been an encroachment on our civil liberties, the betrayal on Brexit, which President Trump was a big fan of. It starts to add up to a picture. The taxes, of course, are sky high. The windmills, the net zero obsession, the immigration, all of these things are absolutely opposed to the MAGA doctrine, right? MAGA stands for a robust nation state that protects its own interests and people over a penchant for the globalist elite. You can't say that about Keir Starmer, right? I would give up everything I own to say I stand resolutely against the idea that Keir Starmer stands up for the nation state and for the national interest. I don't believe he does at all. I think Keir Starmer would rather be more popular around the dining tables of the world's elite than he would be the British people here at home. Anyway, it appears that Donald J. Trump is catching up, my friends, because he has just released this seismic statement. And he says this: I've been telling Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom that leases are no good when it comes to countries, and that he's making a big mistake by entering a 100-year lease with whoever that is claiming right, title and interest to Diego Garcia, the Chagos Islands, strategically located in the Indian Ocean. Our relationship with the United Kingdom is a strong and powerful one, and it has been for many years. But Prime Minister Starmer is losing control of this important island by claims of entities never known of before. In our opinion, they are fictitious in nature, and should Iran decide not to make a deal, and Iran, by the way, it's closer to war than it's ever been between the United States of America and Iran. Deeply troubling times. So this isn't a wild, conclusion. This is a genuine prospect. He says it may be necessary for the United States to use Diego Garcia and the airfield located in Fairford in order to eradicate a potential attack by a highly unstable and dangerous regime, an attack that would potentially be made on the United Kingdom, as well as other friendly countries. Prime Minister Starmer should not lose control, for any reason, of Diego Garcia by entering a tenuous at best 100-year lease, of course with Mauritius, who, by the way, best pals with China, in total cahoots with China, owe them a lot of money. This land should not be taken away from the UK, and if it is allowed to be, it will be a blight on our great ally. We will always be ready, willing and able to fight for the UK, but they have to remain strong in the face of wokeism and other problems put before them. Do not give away Diego Garcia. That, to me, is the most robust statement we've heard from the president yet. And someone, Martin, very cleverly thinks that he says, what's this got to do with fighting for your community and real news from the no-nonsense north? Because Keir Starmer is opposed to every principle that I hold dear. And many people, by the way, in the northeast of England and elsewhere agree with me on that. And they'll agree with President Donald J. Trump that this is a surrender document handed over to benefit the Chinese and not to benefit the great British people. So I'm deeply concerned about it. We know that there have been lies after lies. It started with the Conservative Party, and now, and now it's happening with the Labour Party, who have expedited it and actually basically said, we will rent back our own island. How does that make sense? Lights are on, but no one's home. Where are you, Starmy? So I hope that there is panic in number 10 tonight. I hope that this gives the government the kick up the arse. David Lammy has previously said, admittedly when he was Foreign Secretary, he's no longer Foreign Secretary, he's Deputy Prime Minister, but anyway, regardless, he said as Foreign Secretary that if the Americans opposed the deal on the Chagos Islands, that it wouldn't go ahead. It wouldn't go ahead. And I think that's the position that ultimately the government will conclude it's in and not go ahead with this deal. So President Trump may finally have saved the United Kingdom from Barmy Starmy, his Red Army. I hope so anyway. I really, really do. Right, my friends, what else have I got for you tonight? This really stuck with me, actually. So this is a Sudanese asylum seeker, i.e. illegal migrant, who has 29 previous convictions for 67 offences. Now, his name is Ahmed Mohammed. Ahmed Mohammed. And Ahmed Mohammed threatened a Christian preacher with a knife in London, and he dragged him off a ladder in an attack last May. So it's taken this long for it to go to court. So this man was addressing a crowd at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, that famous place for meets to discuss ideas, debate issues. And the Sudanese national who arrived in the UK in 2012, why has he not been deported? 67 convictions, hello. 29 previous convictions and 67 offences. He said, I would like you to have, the preacher said to him, I would like you to have the Lord in your life. And Mr. Mohammed then tried to drag the preacher down from a ladder and arrived afterwards with a knife, telling the man, I'm going to stab you. So he was quickly arrested before being convicted of threatening a person with an offensive weapon in public. And he was sentenced at Southwark Crown Court to 22 months imprisonment. But it was suspended for 2 years. He had already spent 8 months in custody and had agreed to undergo alcohol treatment. the court, very sort of in a very pathetic, puerile way, said that seemed to be the catalyst, as it changed very quickly Mr. Mohammed's demeanour and he became very angry. I'm sorry, but if you are here from Sudan and you threaten to stab someone because you disagree with their view that Christ is Saviour, and a rejection of Islam as an idea, you should be deported. I don't mind if you disagree with the idea of Jesus Christ as the Son of God, Christian theology. Fine. Many people are atheists in our country. But I do have a problem when you commit 67 offences, you have 29 previous convictions, and that isn't enough to see you deported from our country back to Sudan. And you know why it'll be. We know this by now. This is textbook. We've seen this time and again, time and again. Under one of the many articles of the ECHR, the European Convention, you have a right, your human right, to not be put at home in a nation state where you're from, at harm's way. I'm yawning so much because I've had such a busy day. I'm so sorry. And if that's used as a get-out-of-jail-free card and as a I will not be deported back to my home despite being a wrong'un with 67 offences under my belt, then surely we have to accept there's something wrong with the convention and leave it. You would think that, to me, is the common sense position. What will they do if he goes on to commit a knife crime against someone because he doesn't like their Christian preaching or whatever else? Why was he at Speaker's Corner? He wanted a fight, didn't he? Is this the sort of person we want in our country? I'm not convinced, are you? It's madness. It's an act of utter lunacy. And I feel like I'm repeating myself by going through these stories week in, week out. But we've got to, because I think there is a push from the media to desensitize us to these stories, that we see them so often that we just shrug our shoulders. We mustn't ever just shrug our shoulders. Our ancestors didn't go through the struggle that they did in order for us to allow these kinds of men to wallow in the United Kingdom willy-nilly, unencumbered. Not on our watch. Certainly not Reform UK policy, I'll tell you that for bloody free. But on the theme of Christian preachers, a man was, and this video was posted by ADF International, who represent protesters and speakers who have been arrested for speech issues. And the United Kingdom has a massive problem when it comes to speech issues and arrests in the name of speech issues. And I said on X, arresting a man for the crime of criticising Islam and transgenderism, that's what he was alleged to have done. Is it any wonder so many feel utterly exasperated by a perceived lack of attention on crimes against their person and their property when so much is afforded to speech and thought crimes? Have a listen to the interaction.
You really need to consider the eyewitness account.
Can you put it in front of me? I've got a heart problem. Sorry.
Okay.
I will suffocate.
He's got a heart problem.
When I do that, I right, okay.
Young man, you're making a big mistake. You're making a big mistake. You're not checking eyewitnesses. We have recordings. We have recordings.
You have recordings, brilliant.
Yeah.
We've got a quick duty bound, aren't we?
No, you're making a big mistake. You're taking one witness account over another.
You say
circumstances arrest, we've got multiple reports that you have been inviting, inciting religious hate.
You really need to consider.
Now, the idea that a man criticising Islam and transgenderism can go to jail is, I would argue, pretty preposterous, to be honest. So in one breath, right, we've got this Sudanese asylum seeker who threatened a Christian preacher with a knife, spared jail. This man's arrested on the streets and could face jail for criticising Islam and transgenderism. Whether you agree with him or not, should people not have a right? Should we have arrested John Cleese for offending Christians in Monty Python's A Life of Brian? I don't think so. I find this troubling. I do. And then, you know, you look around the internet and it doesn't take you long to understand what's going on in the country. So I'd said, take a look at this. The gov.uk Prevent training is now officially categorising the belief that mass migration threatens Western culture as a terrorist ideology. So terrorist ideologies, it lists them here. Cultural nationalism. Western culture is under threat from mass migration and a lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups. That's seen as an extreme right-wing terrorist ideology. Well, I do happen to believe that Western culture is under threat. I do happen to believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the owner, part owner of Manchester United and the founder or CEO, whatever, of Ineos, he said that the parts of the UK have been colonialised, and he was utterly rinsed for it, forced to apologise, dragged through by the criticised by the Football Association and all the rest of it, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But when you consider the idea that actually there is a problem with the lack of integration, that's an extremist ideology. It's a terrorist ideology. I think that would be declaring that millions of ordinary, decent British people are guilty of harbouring terrorist beliefs. Do we all get investigated by the government's Prevent programme and locked in the slammer to keep us away from espousing our radical extremist beliefs? It's preposterous. So you can understand why actually arrests like this take place in the United Kingdom, can't you? When this is Prevent duty training and on a government website. Preposterous to me. Totally preposterous. And continuing on the theme of being wild and obnoxious, there's an advert by Transport for London, right, that was put out, and it shows a black male verbally harassing a young girl accompanied by a white male friend who sat down close to the victim, boxing her in. The advert was one of 3 made for social media which had been cut from a 2-minute Act Like a Friend film. That's what it was called. TfL told the Advertising Standards Authority that both characters intimidated the victim and displayed offensive behaviour, so a white man and a black man. But the Advertising Standards Authority banned it for reinforcing negative racial stereotypes. Whoa! Hold on, Jackie. Hold on a minute. So it's okay for Netflix's adolescents to present young white boys stabbing to death young black girls and present white men as being a unique threat to black people in the United Kingdom. But it's not okay to suggest that it can happen the other way too, and does happen the other way too. And actually that the Adolescents Netflix show was actually based, although the writers disagreed with this, on the story of a black boy that did stab a black girl. You can't do that because white bad, black good. That's from our Advertising Standards Agency. This is what happened in the advert. A whole 12 seconds.
Why did you not want to talk to me? I'm on cheating off or something.
I said you look good and you don't want to go out with me. Hello? Can you hear me?
Seeing someone else uncomfortable makes you uncomfortable.
Now,
Am I not good enough for you, son? Why are you not chatting to me?
I said you look good and you don't want to go out with me. Can you hear me? You look at me when I'm talking to you.
Now, to me, this actually, in banning this advert and saying that it's only okay to present this about white men, is an inherently racist act in and of itself. That actually, this shows that the DEI agenda has taken us to a point where actually we are utterly thrown off course by whackery and wokery and the pursuit of what was a laudable aim, you know, of the likes of Martin Luther standing up, not the Martin Luther banging on the door, but the Martin Luther King in the United States of America. You know, banging on the door, I mean the theses banging on the door in Germany. Martin Luther King saying that actually one day it ought to be the aim that the colour of your skin is, just met by a shrug of the shoulders. You're just the same as everybody else. But we can't acknowledge that black men commit crimes too. And actually, by the way, black men are they are, when it comes to the knife crime problem, a big part of the picture in that issue. So why can we not say that adverts ought to be across all people in Britain? You know, Muslims commit crime. Yeah, white people commit crime. Black people commit crime. But you can only display white people committing crimes. You can only tell people that it's white people that are misogynistic, that are sexual harassers, that are guilty of knife crimes. You see the picture that builds up here. And then we wonder why we've got a lost generation of white young men in this country that feel that either they're inherently evil by the immutable fact of the colour of their skin, or that they ought to self-flagellate in a guilt session for the fact that they were born white. It's disgusting in the extreme. And I, for one, think that actually all of this needs to end. And I can't wait for the Equality Act to be scrapped. And I'll get onto that in just a second. Because I think actually the Equality Act is at the bedrock of the issue here. That they're looking at the race issue and the idea of racism being evident in this advert through the lens of the Equality Act. And Christopher Snowdon put it quite well. He said, and this was an advert, by the way, with a white woman in the British Army sexually harassing a black man in the British Army. Anyway, Christopher Snowdon said, if you ever wondered why it's always whitey up to no good in adverts like this, it's because it's the law, apparently. Well, the law needs to change then, doesn't it? Because the law is currently racist. And Suella Braverman was right to say this.
Well, on day one, we will get rid of the Equalities Department and we will repeal the Equality Act.
Reform just think that discrimination should be legal. That Equality Act provides legal protection for everybody at work against discrimination, and what Reform would effectively do is give a blank cheque to bad employers. Let's be clear what this means. It means that an employer could sack a pregnant woman just because they're pregnant, and that would be entirely legal. It means that an employer could deny somebody a...
No, by the way, because the Equality Act, that is already outlawed. In fact, if I remember correctly, that was outlawed by Barbara Castle before the Equality Act, which was brought about in 2010 by Gordon Sodden Brown, was even a thing. They're just so... The lies are... And hyperbole is ridiculous, but this is the modern trade unions. If you pay your subs for a trade union, you want to consider your other options.
Promotion because
Surely
of the
then an
colour of their
employment
skin.
tribunal would step in there, Paul Novak. No?
No, but an employment tribunal requires that basic legislation to act against Nick,
Which
and that's
is in
what the
law.
Equality Act is. And what this basically is send out a message to bad employers that it's okay to treat staff with contempt, to deliberately discriminate against them or victimise them or harass them. It's a bully's charter.
Well, on day one,
Okay, so it's okay then to bully white people. It's okay to tell white people that they shouldn't get a job and that actually, you're only hiring black and minority ethnic workers. And you've seen this, right? You've seen this in job descriptions posted by the government, posted by the civil service, posted by the police force. Why would you, if you were a young white kid growing up in Britain today, why would you not feel that you are the one discriminated against? No, I certainly would. So I agree with Suella Braverman entirely. And I'm so happy, still so happy, that she's come over to Reform UK. I'm absolutely sodding well delighted. She's a great breath of fresh air. And I cannot wait for the day that we get to get rid of all of these things. And all of a sudden, by the way, all of this rhetoric, like this trade union fella saying that actually women won't be able to not be sacked from work for getting pregnant. Already in law elsewhere. The Equality Act actually is used to bully business, to bully people, and to spread racism and the whole trans madness too. Now, moving on to matters equally as mad. Have a listen to the Green candidate, Hannah Spencer.
Never asked why these things are
What we
happening.
did after the terror attacks was we came together and we stuck up for each other.
But you've never asked why are those things happening?
Of course we have.
Why are they happening?
Of course we have, because people like you are dividing
so I'm
people.
responsible for the
Because
Manchester
you
Evening
say
News
that's
Arena
not what
bombing
I've
now.
just said. That's not what
Because
I've
we
just
have
said.
very real issues with integration, and I've even had lots of minority Brits in this seat say exactly the same
Jackie
thing
Pierce
to
for
me.
the Liberal Democrats.
Never asked why.
So she said that those who talk about issues with integration are responsible for acts like the Islamist terror attack in Manchester Arena. Let's just have another listen.
Never asked why these things are
What
happening.
we did after the terror attacks was we came together and we stuck up for each other.
But you've never asked why are those things happening?
Of course we have.
Why are they happening?
Of course we have, because people like you are dividing
so I'm
people.
responsible for the
Because
Manchester
you
Evening
say
News
that's
Arena
not what
bombing
I've just
now.
said. That's not
Because
what I've
we
just
have
She
said.
literally
very
just
real
did.
issues with integration, and I've even had lots of minority Brits in this seat say exactly the same
Jackie
thing
Pierce
to
for
me.
the Liberal Democrats.
Never asked.
She literally just did say that. So actually, ultimately, what she is saying is that this sick bastard who went out, excuse my French, who went out, or my Anglo-Saxon, went out of his way to take a backpack into the Manchester Arena when he knew that Ariana Grande, a pop artist popular with little girls, that actually it would be a stadium full of little girls, and that he would go and detonate a bomb to harm, maim, and murder beautiful little angels. And you say, oh, it's because we're dividing each other. How dare you say that? How dare you try and justify the actions of a sick, sadistic, evil, twisted, I'm going to use that word again, bastard. Exactly what Mr. Beatty was of Syrian descent, came here and did that in Manchester. And she sits there, the Green candidate in that by-election, standing in Gorton and Denton against Matt Goodwin, a good friend of mine. And she has the gall to turn around and say that it's down to the fact that we are dividing people by talking about a lack of integration and other things. I'm sorry, but it's just a completely unavoidable fact that there are scores of areas in the United Kingdom in which English will not be spoken, in which the views, values, and culture would be utterly alien to many of us. And when I think about one street in London that I used to go to quite a lot, if you were to transport me to this particular street that I can think of, and I'd been in a coma for 20 years, right? I would look at that street, I'm talking 20 years ago, if I'd just woken up from a coma now, I'd look at that street and I wouldn't think I was in England. Sorry, I wouldn't think I was in England. No way, Jose. So, yeah, I'm not having any of it. I think she's grotesque. I think the Green Party is the most dangerous political party in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland right now. And I wish Matt Goodwin all the best in defeating them. I really do. Disgusting people. Another Reform member that did a sterling job today was Robert Jenrick. He's been made Shadow Secretary, Shadow Chancellor, I should say. And then he said Secretary to the Treasury. Shadow Chancellor for Reform UK. And he had this to say, setting out an economic vision for the party and its prospectus for government.
Reform will diffuse the benefits bomb that is set to bankrupt Britain.
It is.
We are developing the most comprehensive plan for welfare reform in British politics. Better, more serious, more rigorous than any other of the parties. And we will be setting that out in the months ahead. We will stop those with mild anxiety, depression, and similar conditions from claiming disability benefits, and instead do everything we can to encourage them into the dignity of work. We will reinstate in-person assessments and require clinical diagnosis to weed out those who are choosing a life on benefits. We will end the abuse of the Motability Scheme, where expensive cars are handed out for conditions like tennis elbow and paid for by working people who could never afford those same cars themselves. And we will make sure that only British nationals can claim benefits in the first place. But we need to go further, because at the moment, the system is not fair to those who pay for it. As a signal of intent today, Reform is changing our policy on the two-child cap for universal credit. The policy was well-meaning. We want to help British working families to have more children. But right now, we just can't afford to do so with welfare. So it has to go. As Reform's Shadow Chancellor, I'm ending it. A Reform government will restore the cap in full. We are the party of alarm clock Britain. We are a party of workers and not welfare.
And I think actually we are at that point, ultimately, every single issue that I deal with in our council is guided by, and the reason that the sector in general is going bust is the explosion in the number of children coming forward with the likes of ADHD, autism. Don't get me wrong, there are some kids that genuinely can't be in mainstream schools. Before anyone clips this up and says Grimesy hates people with disabilities, but there are, in far too many cases, examples of parents who want their children to be in classes with greater one-on-one tuition, support staff for their children, greater flexibility when it comes to examinations, those smaller class sizes, so that better, that greater focus on your child. And they use these watchwords of the moment, like ADHD, like autism and other things, as, or even anxiety, by the way, anxiety. Getting a taxi to school for anxiety. I mean, when I was a Ben, you just got told to get on with it. You had to. You didn't have a choice. And it's bankrupting local government. So all of these things are true. And what Rob says there in that clip about the benefits bill is that actually the 4 million people that are declared as can't work, won't work, who are now, it's spiked. Since COVID, it's spiked. And it was the Tories that put in place personal independence payments for mental health issues. Spiked. Post-COVID, people saying, do you know what? I actually quite like being at home. I actually quite like the state paying for us. I actually quite like being able to doze around and basically get out for now. And we're allowing it to happen. We can't go on like this. The debt to GDP ratio is at 100%. Taxes are the highest they've been since the Blitz. We can't go on allowing people to just claim benefits. We haven't got the money. So I'm totally happy that actually there is a greater, and I think a more, a realignment of a strategy that says that both the Tories and Labour have totally failed were on this. And that actually it's alarm clock Britain and hard-working Brits that need to be focused on. In the council chamber today, we passed our budget, and one of the elements of that budget was to make benefits claimants pay 10% of the overall council tax bill, as in they have to pay 10% of the bill that everybody else gets. 10%. Just 10%. And I was told that I was putting vulnerable people's lives at risk. Benefits claimants in Britain today far too often are better off than working people who go out every single damn day for a hard slog and come back home only to make less money and have it taxed than someone that's getting paid by you working. It's not fair. And all of these schemes that the government puts forward, like the home insulation. How many home insulation adverts have you seen on your social media feeds? But none of them apply to you because you do the right thing and have a job. Not everyone can work, and I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that we are at an unfair, totally unsustainable position right now. And that there is only, I think, the Reform Party that actually have the mettle to be able to take it by the bull by both hands and ride that baby until it buckles to the demand that is being screamed out, I think, by the British public that feel that they rightly are being squeezed like a lemon. And the pips are popping out like you wouldn't believe. Unsustainable, unaffordable. Exactly what it is. And one of those, the madness that I mentioned earlier, Tom Harwood, he's often wrong, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. He says, it's insane that you're forced to do this stuff in order to run a company in Britain. These rules were introduced under a Tory government. It's shameful. And this is another economic reform that Reform would focus on. And it says it's a Financial Conduct Authority diversity targets, and they were effective in 2026. And the diversity targets say that a board of a company's composition should be at least 40% female, including those who self-identify as women. So maybe I could have a board thanks to the Tories, I could have a board full of blokes, but I could just say, oh, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Diversity Officer. They all identify as women. What you gonna do about it, transphobe? Is that how I'm meant to operate in modern Britain? Run a business? Our business is not struggling enough in this country. I think they damn well are. Senior positions. At least one of the 4 senior roles, either chair, CEO, CFO, or senior independent director, must be held by a woman. Presumably, again, self-identifies a woman. Ethnic diversity. At least one board member must be from a non-white ethnic minority background. Well, why? But it's okay for groups like, do you remember Black Lives Matter when they were going on about how you should only buy from black-owned businesses? It's okay to do things like that. It's okay to say that you're only hiring black and minority ethnic people in businesses, but it's not okay to do that for white people. What if it just is the case that for that job, whatever it might be, that the white people are the best contenders for the role? Again, it's this pervasive racism that's ruining the economy and having a completely detrimental impact on the way in which young white boys view themselves. I think it's a massive problem, massive issue. Craig says, vote reform. I agree the Greens are very dangerous. If the right don't stick together, it'll keep the left in. Nigel knows you have to appeal to a broad church. Thank you, Craig. Craig Chaplin. Not Charlie Chaplin, Craig Chaplin. And speaking of Nigel, I thought that this was a phenomenal clip on how to handle those gotcha journalists that scream, oh, you went to a private school. Well, I didn't go to a private school, but I tell you right now, Nigel Farage represents me and my family a hell of a lot better than these state-educated UK government cabinet ministers do. Have a listen to this madness.
My first question's to Zia Youssef. You've no doubt seen the incredibly violent scenes unfolding at the hands of ICE in the US, and yet you've boasted about creating the UK's version of that here that would round up hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants and deport them. Do you really believe that the British public want a Trump 2.0 immigration policy? And my second question is to you, Suella. You went to a private school that charges £17,000 a year.
Oh dear, you better emigrate, I think. I mean, clearly, it's absolutely appalling.
Richard,
what a terrible human being she must be.
Not at all, not at all. Richard, Nigel, Robert and Zia, I believe, all went to expensive private schools.
Very good, what fun.
What do you say to members of the public who might query your party's commitment and belief in state education? And are you able to confirm whether your children go to state schools?
By the way, I love the FT. It's fantastic. The day after the big Mandelson story broke, your front page politics story was about a reform councillor in Kent. So we'll leave it there and we'll move on. We'll leave it there. There's no point. There's no point. Just write some silly story tomorrow and have fun with it. And we won't bother to read it. Peter from The Guardian.
But I think actually it shows the sneer and contempt, does it not, of the media elite, a media class that is totally out of step. You know, 1 minute they say that people like me, I didn't go to a private school. I was brought up by a single mum on a council estate in County Durham. And they call people like me thick, right? They call us gammons. They call us red-faced, chippy little oiks. We're thick as pig shit. We don't know what we're voting for. We're stupid. We voted for Brexit. We're racist. We're fascists. We're Nazis. Whatever, right? But at the same time, reform is also an elitist cabal of private school educated elites. Well, you cannot have it both. It cannot be both things, can it? Well, can it be a party of thick, uneducated, non-degree educated morons and at the same time be the elite top cheese who went to these private schools? So what? So what? Does it matter that any one of the people on that stage at Reform UK's rally yesterday went to private school and that someone like me didn't. No, I'll tell you what does matter. And it's not the colour of Suella's skin. It's not the colour of Zia Yusuf's skin. It's not what genitalia that Sarah Pochin has. It is what binds us all together, which is a view that Britain is broken and Britain fundamentally needs reform and that this country is crying out for it. But they can't get their heads around the idea that there's more to life than a DEI check sheet, that you've got to, you tick several boxes and it's terrible. It's a good thing that the colour of your skin is brown. You went to a private school, so it doesn't count. It doesn't count. So I think they deserved the sneering, laughing contempt that Nigel offered them there, and I fully support him in doing it. I think actually we do have to now take a stronger approach on dismissing and ridiculing the media, because who are they representing here? No wonder there are far fewer people buying the papers than have done since, I think, probably the advent of the bloody printing press. So, honestly, it frustrates me like you wouldn't believe. And to end, my friends, today is Ash Wednesday. Annoyingly,
4 years
because we had our budget today, I haven't been able to go to church and get my Ashen Cross to mark the start of Lent. But if you're an atheist as well, whatever floats your boat, I don't mind. But one man that I think sums up everything we've been discussing today is Sadiq Khan. And he says, as London has come together to celebrate the start of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan, our capital shines bright as a beacon of hope and diversity. From my family to yours, Ramadan Mubarak. So, okay, well, so there's nothing to commemorate Lent then in our capital city of the Christian country, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And Jim Ratcliffe was wrong to say that there's an element of colonialisation, even if you disagree with that word being used in Britain, that there isn't a pervasive narrative that suggests that our dominant or formerly dominant culture is the wrong one, and that actually we've got to just consistently champion others or more recent arrivals to the United Kingdom. He's just such an arrogant, slimy, political pygmy.
Years ago, we were the first city in the Western world to host a Ramadan lights display. 3, 2, 1. And tonight, once again, London is shining bright as a beacon of hope, unity and inclusivity. Ramadan is a sacred time. It's a time to recommit to our faith, give to those in need and reflect on the challenges faced by those less fortunate than ourselves.
What about Lent?
We see incredible acts of kindness and generosity from our Muslim brothers and sisters, taking care of the vulnerable and fundraising for charitable causes. And I know this month will be no different. I want to say thank you to Muslim Londoners for all you do during Ramadan and all year round to make London the greatest city in the world. Our city's diversity is beautiful. The Quran says, and of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and your colours. In recent months, the voices of those who think our diversity is a weakness or a threat have been getting louder. Voices that peddle prejudice and sow division for their own political gain. But we will not let them win. We will do what Londoners have always done. Stand together, shoulder to shoulder, neighbour to neighbour, celebrating our differences and defending the values that bind us together. As we come together to mark the start of Ramadan.
I can't listen to any more of that. Honestly, I find it so baffling that actually, there is the idea that he would, put up a light display for Lent is just so unimaginable, isn't it, these days? And the flying of our flag is apparently a racist act. We've just moved so far away from anything that actually does, I think, genuinely bring people together. Yes, Darren's having a go, saying, "I'm sorry, I've upset you, Darren," but I had to show that to you because I think it does display even the royal family yesterday. On what was Pancake Tuesday. It's not Pancake Tuesday. It's bloody Shrove Tuesday. Thank you very much. In which you are shriven, forgiven for the sins and of the that's been as you look forward to Lent. But anyway, to say all of that, you're viewed as a total nutcase. But it's absolutely fine because diversity is our strength. I just can't bear it. I can't bear it. No. It's like one rule for one, isn't it? And then out for everybody else. That's not bringing it together. It's quite the opposite. That's tearing us apart. So that's my view. That's my two penneth. And anyway, with that, my friends, I shall bid you a very good night because after a day of budgets and passing our budget, the lowest council tax in the country, if not the northeast of England, we've had a great success as Reform UK. We're going to continue keeping on and hopefully representing, as I hope I always have, so many of you out there that feel utterly hopeless at the minute. And I get it. I totally get it. And I'm with you. I promise I'm with you. And Chloe Dobbs on this channel, she's with you too. And we'll get through this. We've known dark times before. We will get through this. Okay. Good night, my friends. And dare I say it, God bless.